I'm going to read the first part of chapter 2 before I start a new video. In the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, this is our March. This would have been the first month of their year if they were still, if Nehemiah were using the Jewish calendar, because Passover was in Nisan, and that is when they had the beginning of their year. But that's not what he's using. He's using the calendar that King Artaxerxes used, which counted the year as beginning in September. So this is the same calendar year according to their calendar. Starting in September, which would be the month of Tishri. Now this is the month of Kislev, which is chapter 1 is the month of Kislev, which is in December. This is the month of Nisan, which is our March. So about 4 months later. So in the month of Nisan, the 20th, so he's had 4 months to think about this. He prayed about God granting him success today at the end of chapter 1. Obviously, he didn't go see Artaxerxes that day. He's had 4 months to think. It could be Artaxerxes wasn't there for 4 months. Like I said, the Persian kings had these regional palaces, these seasonal palaces that they used. So it's possible that while Nehemiah was in Susa for the last 4 months, Artaxerxes hasn't been there. I'm not really sure. I don't know exactly why Nehemiah waited 4 months to confront the king about this, because he apparently made up his mind that day, back in Nehemiah 1, that he was going to do it. But he waited 4 months to actually do it, and I'm not sure why. My best guess is that he didn't see the king during those 4 months. The king was off doing something else, and it was only at this time when he came back and Nehemiah served him as cupbearer again. But I don't know. I don't know. In the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was brought for him, I took the wine and gave it to the king, like he always is. The cupbearer would have prepared the wine and would have also tasted it first to make sure it wasn't poisoned. So the king asked me, I had not been sad in his presence before. So the king asked me, why does your face look so sad when you are not ill? This can be nothing but sadness of heart. So somehow or another, and I don't even think it was intentional, I don't think Nehemiah did this on purpose, but his countenance was such that the king could tell something was wrong. You've been around some of this before, I'm sure. I have. I've been this way before. I have been at times so emotionally distraught that I can't hide it. I look distraught. People can just look at me and tell that not everything is going well with me. I may not be breaking out in tears. Nehemiah wasn't breaking out in tears here. But you can tell just by looking at me, and I've seen it before in others, and I'm sure you have too. You can tell just by looking at someone that they're not right, something's wrong with them. They are not physically ill, and they're not weeping and wailing. Nehemiah is not mourning in the presence of the king. He's not supposed to do that. I just talked about mourning being, public mourning being completely acceptable this time, and that's true, but you weren't supposed to do that in front of the king. So Nehemiah is trying not to do that, but his overall anxiety and sadness of heart is so great that he can't hide it. He's not doing it intentionally, though, as we can tell by the next line, saying, I was very much afraid. Like, he didn't want to have to confront the king like this, but he just can't help it. It could also be that Nehemiah, if Nehemiah has had access to the king for the last 4 months and hasn't brought this to his attention yet, it could be that God is kind of kicking him along here, and the Spirit is moving him in order to force the issue to be brought up, because Nehemiah may not have wanted to. Nehemiah would know that Artaxerxes has issued a shutdown order on the building project in Jerusalem. So he's going to essentially be asking Artaxerxes to go back on his previously issued decree, which is a big, big deal. We've read about this before already in Daniel with Darius the Mede, and then with Darius the Persian before, and with King Artaxerxes, or King Xerxes, and Esther. It's like, you don't want to ask the king to renege on a declaration he's already made. That's bad stuff. So that's what Nehemiah is going to have to do. So that's why he's concerned. I was very much afraid. But I said to the king, may the king live forever. Why should my face not look sad, when the city where my fathers are buried lies in ruins, and its gates have been destroyed by fire? He hasn't mentioned it's Jerusalem yet. He's trying to get on the king's sympathies without identifying exactly what the problem is or where the problem is. The king said to me, what is it you want? He knows that Nehemiah wants something. We saw that with Esther and her king, Xerxes at the time. When she went to his presence and he extended the scepter to her, like he knew she was there for something. She wasn't just there to say hi. She was there to ask for something, and he knew it, which is why he wanted to tell him what it was that she wanted. And she waited for a couple of days before she finally told him. So the king knows that Nehemiah is going to ask for something, so he's just saying, what is it? What do you want? And then I prayed to the God of heaven. He uttered a quick, silent prayer in his mind to God. And he'll do this a lot during this chapter. During this book, I should say. And I answered the king, if it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in his sight, let him send me to the city in Judah. Again, he's not identifying the exact city, because Artaxerxes has ordered that city not to be rebuilt. Let him send me to the city in Judah where my fathers are buried, so I can rebuild it. Having this fathers are buried thing is an insight into the way their minds thought. Now, that's not really his complete motivation. He's putting that forward as something he thinks will be sympathetic to the king. And I'm sure it does matter to him. I'm sure it does, but it's not really his primary motivation. Still, it is an insight into the way he saw the world, and the way the people at the time saw the world. It's like, to us, this really wouldn't be that big of a deal, but proper ancestor care for, even sometimes bordering on ancestor worship, was a big deal in their culture at that time. Previously, now not in Jerusalem, not in Israel, and maybe not elsewhere either at this point, but previously we'd seen that firstborn sons of the family acted as sort of de facto priests for the family, and they were responsible for praying for the departed members of the family. The whole cycle in Egypt was about the Horus and what's the other guy's name? I'm forgetting. No, it's not Seth. I forget. Not coming to mind. But they had these two gods, the living God who represented in the body of the current pharaoh, and the dead god, represented by the body of the previous pharaoh who had died, his father. And every time a pharaoh died, he became the new dead god. I'm not getting it to come. I'll recognize it as soon as I hear it, but I'm drawing a blank right now. And then the next pharaoh, his son or his successor, whoever it was, would become the new living god. And so that idea of ancestor worship, of ancestor respect, if not bordering ancestor worship, was very common and very important. Like I said, the Levites were set apart from the firstborn sons of Israel, and to fill that role in Israel. And they didn't worship their ancestor, at least they weren't supposed to, but there was still an idea of great respect given to your ancestors in a way that we don't offer in our country today. He's still not identifying Jerusalem as the city he wants to rebuild, because Artaxerxes doesn't want that city rebuilt. At least he hasn't up until this point. Then the king, with the queen sitting beside him, asked me, how long will your journey take, and will you get back? It pleased the king to send me, so I set a time. He'll end up being gone for 12 years. Now, I have to assume that he didn't tell him the 12 years. He doesn't tell him how much time he tells the king here. He just kind of says set a time. He'll be gone for 12 years. I'm sure he told him he wouldn't be gone for 12 years, but he ended up staying there for 12 years before he's finally sent back. I also said to him, if it pleases the king, may I have letters to the governors of Trans-Euphrates, or even the region beyond the Euphrates River, so they will provide me safe conduct until I arrive in Judah. And may I have a letter to Asaph, keeper of the king's forest, so he will give me timber to make beams for the gates of the citadel by the temple, and for the city wall, and for the residence I'll occupy. That's where he's going to get the materials from, at least the wooden materials. And because the gracious hand of my God was upon me, we read about that in Ezra too. Ezra also said that. The king granted my requests. So I went to the governors of Trans-Euphrates and gave them the king's letters. The king who had also sent army officers and cavalry with me. Now Ezra did not ask for, in fact he explicitly rejected the use of a military escort from the king of Persia, Artaxerxes. But he was there as a priest going on a religious mission. Nehemiah is going there as an acting governor on a political mission. So he is going to accept the offer of the Artaxerxes' royal escort. He's not going to come armed with a bunch of Levites and priests. He's going to come with a bunch of the king's own soldiers. As a political leader, as a civic authority. And he's going to have to deal with hostile authorities. We've already seen that, as we read about in the letter from Ezra 4. The governors who are already there in that area are going to be hostile to him, and he knows it. So he's got these letters to address to those governors, and he's also got an armed escort straight from the king. When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite official heard about this, they were very much disturbed that someone had come to promote the welfare of the Israelites. That's going to be his opposition, or at least some of it. He has a lot of opposition, but two of his main enemies are going to be this Sanballat guy and this Tobiah guy. And we're going to be hearing about them a lot in the rest of the book of Nehemiah.